Good morning. Welcome to the Small Business Support Group. It is the 11th of June. It's Thursday, and I'm stood up, so I've got lots of energy today. I'm like this, so it's all very exciting. Let's see who we've got in. Why do we ask that every day? Because we know who's going to be there. Maz is always first there. There she is. We've got Grants. There he is.
Hello.
More like a radio DJ today than the MTV star he was yesterday. Amazing. And Mark is in his office.
I'm in the office. I'm in the community areas, actually. But I'm in
the communal area, because really, they won't let him in the office. He just stands out. He just stands looking for the windows. I want one of these.
I'm not having it.
So, everybody okay? Everybody all right? Yeah.
Mr. Linton is looking very dapper today.
Very dapper, isn't he? Look at that. He is. Look at that jacket.
Wow.
Wow. You know what? He brushes up well, doesn't he? Considering, that's what he normally looks like. But, it's...
Maz, do you want to tell everyone what you said?
Well, what do you mean? Because it could be a bit edgy.
Yeah, no. Maz said to me, I'll tell the viewers this. He said, you're scrubbing up well. Have you got something to tell us? I was like, what do you mean? Who are you meeting? Oh. Your wife watches this program.
No, I wasn't going to mention that. I thought that was a little bit edgy. Anyway, right, I'm starting today, everybody, so I have full screen. Good morning and welcome to the small. It's the afternoon now, isn't it? I can see why Maz gets confused. I want to talk about something which is close to my heart, which is obviously entertainment. Now, I'm going to touch on George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter segment. I'm only going to touch on it because what I'm going to talk about is about that, but not about that, if you understand. Yesterday was announced that AMC in the States were removing the film that they own, which is Gone with the Wind, from streaming services because of the subject matter of the film, which is obviously relates back to Black Lives Matter, which is obviously about slavery. Now, I understand Black Lives Matter, and it's needs to be there, and it's going to push forward, and it's all great, and it's got its own agenda. But removing a movie which is Gone with the Wind, which was based on a book which was written in 1936, to me gives the wrong signals out, because the movie itself, yes, it is about slavery, but it was made, in the 30s. It was made around that time. And the question I want to raise today, and I'm going to put it out to everybody, is our morals and ethics of today, should we use the ethics that today to judge the morals of past lives and movies in the past and entertainment? Now, I understand the statue. The statue was about a slave driver, and I understand that. So let's get rid of him. Understand that. But let's not forget him, because we can't forget things like that, because if you forget things like that, it'll affect the future. So we must not get rid of the past because we don't like it now. The past is the past. Someone stated yesterday, the past is never the past because it's always with us. But the past is the past because the ethics and the morals of that time are different to they are now. We have to remember that Gone with the Wind gave an Academy Award to the first ever black actress at the time. And that's important because that changed American history in the cinema and in movies. So you're getting rid of a film that is, first of all, it is sort of loosely based on real life, but the story was just made up. It's fictional. So it's not real, but it was made in the 30s, and we're judging it with our standards now. Now, we would never make a film like that now. Well, actually, we did, because we made a film 3 years ago, Django Unchained. Tarantino made it, which was about slavery of that time. But it was told in a slightly different way, because obviously the slave drivers were killed in it, and the slaves took over, and everybody lived happily ever after as such. So the movie was made in a specific way now. Now, in the future, 40, 50, 60 years in the future, is that film going to be judged in the way it is with judging Gone with the Wind? Because that's wrong. We made that film now, or 4 years ago, because it was a Tarantino-esque movie. He has a style. He has a writing way. And it's It was very bloody. There had lots of guns in it. Let's take the slavery out of it. There was rape. There was pillaging. It was everything was involved in that movie. Is that something in the future that we're thinking, ooh, that's not very good. We shouldn't really do that because we don't do that now. So let's get rid of the movie now. No, we shouldn't, because movies should stay where they are. They are a part of history. That history was the 30s. It's nothing to do with now. So now I'm going to hand it over to everybody else. So batten down the hatches. Here we go. Maz, do you want to start things off? Start us for 10. Maz.
Okay. I think I understand the Black Lives Movement. This isn't about the movement that we're speaking about. Touching on, I've watched Gone with the Wind many moons ago, and I remember watching it for the first time. I remember that it moved me to read up on slave trade. I mean, we need to keep these films, books, statues in a visible place to enable people to see them and ask questions. You know, there's a great line that comes to mind, which is out of sight, out of mind. So when you attempt to erase history and past cultural events by banning films or destroying historical artifacts, you are the agent of evil, not the other way around. You know, I find it strange that these statues, some of which have stood for hundreds of years, have suddenly overnight become so hated. You know, a month ago, a few days ago, 99% of the public couldn't care less about them. And if asked, probably had no idea who these statues represented and why it was that they were there in the first place. Now, all of a sudden, overnight, leaders, mayors, and other high-ranking officials have come forward saying what a disgrace it is to have them and they need removing. So, in the end, a generation of people who object to everything want to remove statues that have stood there longer than they have been alive. So what's next? Shall we start rewriting history? You know, bad things happened. Good things happened. This is in the nature of people, of countries. No one person is good or bad. History should be learned from and not destroyed. I think that the statues maybe should stay with, I don't know, plaques that briefly say both good and the bad the person committed. If we start all this, then it's never going to stop. Someone is always going to be linked to something throughout history. History is history. Just because you don't agree with what's happened does not mean it should be abolished. You cannot eradicate the past. You can, however, acknowledge the mistakes and put it right in the future. You know, please consider nothing is ever clear cut. Nobody is perfect. And perceptions and expectations change. You know, what is happening here in our homes, UK, seems to demonstrate a failing in the education system, a failing in the intelligence. Teach people how to inform and think for themselves. And statues and monuments should actually be seen as markers in history. And it's important that people use these markers to educate themselves, to inform themselves. You know, if we start removing these movies and monuments and statues, we will actually reduce the opportunity and trigger for people to find out about the history and how different periods lived and provoke thought and discussion. I mean, the example that comes to mind right now is Germany. Germany, after the reunification, there was a move to remove all signs of the communist era in Eastern Germany. But actually, people slowly realized this was part of history and the symbols should remain to remind people about this period. Sure, there will be people with a different view and interpretations, but this is what free thought and actually free speech is about. Cutting out history, it's like trying to cut out shapes out of the air around you. It can't be done. You know, some of the air smells a bit, but it's there and it will always remain. You know, I think it's time for our young people to grow up and learn from history They will be the custodians of our history very soon, and they won't be thanked by the generation that follow if they concrete over the whole lot. You know, maybe we could have a badge of shame attached to these statues. It could indicate their crimes against humanity. Maybe that would lead to an understanding of the history without whitewashing their existence. In a way, the monuments, statues, movies, the day of reckoning only happens once. But this way, it could be a legacy. Why don't we educate the future generations? Instead of cutting up the past, we will never go back to the time of slavery. So why not educate our children, the people around us, who these people were and how we can prevent the wrongs of the past? Use this energy that you have. There's so much energy out there to prevent modern day slavery. Sweatshops in China, tech companies using low-paid workers in terrible conditions. You can't change where we came from, but what you can change is now, the present, and of course, the future. So on that note, over to Grant and Mark for their thoughts.
I'm just, we'll go to Grant first because Mark sent me something which I am just sorting out for him. So Grant, I'm going to add one more thing into this just before we go any further. That there was a section of people who burnt books in the history. Didn't work out well for them either. So let's not destroy history. That's all I'm going to say. Right, Grant, what's your thoughts on this?
The thing that I'll pick up on that Maz talks about then, which I think is a much more sensible idea than chucking a statue in the sea, would be to change the plaque to give some context. Because, you know, there's plenty of stuff that we did in history that we're not proud of. It doesn't mean that we want to completely get rid of it. If there's a statue there that was done as a celebration that is now offensive because of the nature of the person, you know, what he did with his own time, I think the plaque needs to recognise that. And that way, instead of brushing it, you know, if we get rid of that statue and it you know, it is destroyed, we've missed an opportunity, in my view. We've missed an opportunity to show that we've learned and changed and evolved as a species. And surely a plaque, you know, breaking down the pros and cons of the guy, taking that statue as the first example, is much more sensible than the, you know, vandalism of throwing a sculpture into the sea. And really, I think it's a sign of the emotion and the times and the way that you know, when people get riled up, they'll do things that perhaps in hindsight they might have regretted anyway. It just strikes me as a missed opportunity, really. There's plenty of things. Gone with the Wind is what we obviously started with, you know, and that is another film that, you know, we can learn from. We can look back and say, look how far we've come. You know, look at how it's almost a form of celebration in a way. We look at the way things used to be, and we look now at how abhorrent that kind of, you know, behavior would be to us in our modern age. I think that's we should be celebrating that, not making it you know, a negative by just getting rid of it. In its day, Gone with the Wind was a breakthrough film. As Matt said, you know, it was a celebration of you know, that was it the first black actor to get an Oscar, was it, Matt?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I mean, which is awesome, isn't it? You know, absolutely awesome. That was a real turning point. And by not, you know, perhaps something that's sensitive in a similar way to the plaque on the statue, a disclaimer at the beginning of the film would be more than enough to just sort of show how far we've come. And also, you know, that fact about the Oscar, I think, is something that should be celebrated, you know. I think it's another thing. It's such an emotionally charged subject, rightly so. You know, it's absolutely horrendous. You know, what's been going on, but the way that we deal with it, you know, is also a reflection of how far we've come. We've now got to the point where we've evolved. We now know that slavery is abhorrent. Still goes on, by the way. There's still slavery is still a thing. There's still people that are enslaved, you know, that's going on to this day, and not necessarily to do with their race or to do with their color or anything else, but slavery is still a thing. And, you know, that's something that needs to be addressed massively. But the fact that we do find it abhorrent in our society is something that should be sort of celebrated, I think. But it kind of tarnishes it when we use violence to make that point.
No, that's good points there. And yeah, when we talk about that Black Lives Matter thing, we mustn't forget how important it is and why we're talking about it, because it was awful that happened to Floyd. Mark, you want to add some words to this?
Yeah, it saddens me. It saddens me that someone as amazing as Hattie McDaniel was, to be even in a film, but to be the first African American actress to win an Oscar, and yet we are now calling for that film to be removed. And as everyone says, the content of the film, it highlights obviously the appalling history that was with slavery, and by looking at the past, we can change the future. So all the speakers today have talked about, we're not accept as this is what should be going forward, and Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. All racism, all discrimination of all sorts should be eradicated. Have we not learned from Nazi Germany? Have we not learned from the concentration camps, which I have a resounding connection to, in much as my mother is Jewish, which makes me Jewish, even though I follow the Christian faith. I still watched and read and wrote, my essays around the Jews which were in camps, which were being persecuted. When I was in the British Army, I visited those concentration camps because one at the road. And at the time, my colleagues, I wouldn't even say the friends so much, stole my shoes whilst I was in, the concentration camp, and thought it was funny that I should walk back over the graves of so many, not just Jews, whites, Hispanians, gypsies, all were discriminated against because of their color, because of their race, because of their religion, and because they were different. So if we cannot learn from this, to say that all lives matter, and yes, Black lives matter, of course they do, but so do Asians, so do repressed white people, because when you look and you can hide, as I did, behind the whiteness of my skin, but as soon as I said to my fellow comrades, if you like, in the British Army that I was a Jew, I was a Yid. They thought it was funny, to call me these names. But I could hide behind my color because it was something I chose to tell them. Now, I don't completely have an understanding of at all how Black people go through, because they can't hide behind anything. So they are subjected to this extreme hatred. But what I've learned over the years, and this is what history has given me an understanding of, because I've watched it, seen it, and said that I don't want no part of that, is I don't see color in friendship. I don't see religion as an obstacle. I just see friends. And I think when we start looking at that way in life, then all lives will truly matter, and racism and discrimination will be completely obliterated from society.
It's I think everybody spoke really well this morning. I know we've still got another 10 minutes to go, but it's the subject matter is really sensitive, and I think everybody's brought their own twist onto it. Mark, with obviously where he's been, and Matt as well. It's so passionate, isn't it? This is the thing, and you don't want it to fall into silly places, which is obviously removing a film, or we haven't touched about Little Britain. That's probably a little bit more edgier because it's so recent, even though it was 10 years ago. It is so recent that, but things have changed since then. I mean, our British comedy, if you look back over probably 20, 30 years, has changed. We would not make Carry On movies now because of the Me Too movement. You wouldn't do that. But we haven't got rid of those movies. They're still streaming. You still can see those. They're probably not on a heavy rotation on the BBC anymore. But, they are still there and haven't been removed because it is about the time when they were made. If that time was incorrect, it was good or bad. That's not for us to say. That's for them to deal with it then, not now. So it is. It's really. I'm just really saddened by what's gone on. Which for the one side of the Black Lives Matter, I do feel really sad, and my daughter's standing up to and going to do a bit of protesting. So I back all the way with that. But sometimes these things they get out of hand. The violence regarding the protesting is not right. And then I just think that the boiling point is just pushing these things too far, and getting a movie removed that's it's made in the 30s is just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I don't think I want to say anymore because it is for me on this subject. Just I felt passionate about it, and I've said out what I wanted to say. And everybody else has. So let's move on. Mark, unfortunately, lost his stream. He is back in, and we can just see his chest there. What's he doing? What? He's also on mute. Is he on mute? A desk going on?
He's on mute. Unmute yourself, Mark.
I'm just doing a grant. I'm just kind of getting myself into that. Oh, look, I'm in the office.
Has anybody else got any more subjects? Something with a bit lighter now that we've all got off our chest.
I did message you, Matt, with this, and I obviously, apologies for
yes, you did, Mark.
The relaxation of the 2 meter rule. I've listened to the news today. The business secretary has said that this has to be part of the government's plan if we are to get the economy going forward. Now, at the same time, we've got scientists with different views saying that actually, this is going to be more harmful to do this. But as I believe it was Margaret Thatcher said at the time, scientists are there to give advice. Policymakers there to put the policies in place that the politicians or government actually say that needs to happen. So my point here is all businesses at the moment, and we're being told that the UK is going to be the hardest hit as a Western country in generations with the whole recession, and by relaxing the 2 meter rule to 1 meter will encourage businesses to go back and open up stores, so shops, restaurants, hotels, and offices. I'm in the office today. It's a very expensive office, BE offices, in general, for these guys to have the building. Grant knows that. He's also in the same office. But again, it's empty. The whole floor is empty. Everywhere is marked out with 2 meters spacing. Now, this is affecting their business hugely because people are saying, well, everyone's working from home. I don't need offices right now. We've got to get the economy moving. And I think my understanding is as well that it's not a case of when the 2 meter rule will be relaxed. If it's going to be relaxed, it's going to be when it's going to be relaxed. And I think businesses need clarity from the government in the same way as they need clarity with the schools when this is going to happen so people can start planning to reopen their doors. And the 15th of June, as we know, shops are looking to open. That's Monday next week. And we're also told that in July, restaurants, hotels, the eateries are all looking to open. But a lot are going to be focusing on outside space, but also how they can seat people in the restaurants in order to get their businesses going again.
So yeah, I heard this morning there were people talk, some businesses, a cafe owner and a pub owner that was on the radio this morning. and they're saying that this reduction from a 2 meter to a 1 meter would help their business profit and turnover considerably, because obviously if they keep it at 2 meter, there's going to be only a 30% of the turnover, the normal turnover they can do. If they reduce it down to 1 meter, that will increase it to 70%, which is much more workable. It's not great because obviously it's cutting a lot of the profit out, but they've said that they need the 1 meter rule to get that higher turnover. So they also said that, you know, they had a professor on. Obviously, there's lots of these professors around going on the radio and TV at the moment, and he said that, you know, oh yeah, 1 meter's fine, it's all cool, you know, no problem. You don't. It's only the big droplets you have to worry about, and yeah, you'll be fine at 1 meter because that's a normal conversational distance as well. So where do they keep getting all this random information from? And if it is big droplets, why didn't we have the masks from the start? It's just, it would have been much easier, wouldn't it? Grant?
I can see Grant wanting to get in, and
They haven't got a clue, have they? Let's face it. You know, the so-called experts, they contradict each other all the time. You know, I watched a webinar a couple of weeks ago, with 160 doctors on the webinar, and about 90% of them said that face masks do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just an absolute shambles. The way that, you know, the lack of concrete information seems pretty obvious to me, that we at least should know one way or the other. You know, I don't know which way, but surely an expert should be able to tell whether a face mask is a good thing or a bad thing. Is that seem apparently not?
Well, it's just that they can't make their mind up as well, can they?
You know, 2 meters or 1 meter, good thing or a bad thing? World Health Organization, 1 meter. UK government, 2 meters. You know, 100 scientists say 1 meter, 100 scientists say another. Honest to God, it's just a shambles, isn't it? Surely these things should be factual.
It's not even our country, because Sweden's. I'll come back to you in a minute, Maz. Don't panic. I know you're eager to say something. My face just dropped when I started talking. Then Sweden. You know, everybody was raving how good the Swedes were. Haven't they? Well, they've cocked up now, haven't they? Their death rate's gone up. Doesn't matter. We're not on Linton yet. The death rate's gone up. The cases have all gone up because they had that relaxed attitude, which obviously all Swedes do, and now it's gone for the roof, and now they think that now they have to go back into lockdown. So it's no one really knows, do they? You know, you might as well just put us four in charge. It would have been better.
Well, I have thought about that.
It would have been one. It would have been better. Two, it would have been a lot more funnier.
Can you imagine putting me in charge?
Well, I did think you could be the PM, because I always like the idea of being PM, but I think you're sensible with the conversations. I could be the, I don't know, business secretary. I like that. But I think that's more grand.
Well, Maz is obviously the medical person, isn't she? Because on a good day, if that R number's low, it's all, yep, that's great. If it's a bad day, the R number's high, it's, oh, no, sorry. That would have solved everything, wouldn't it? Just everything. It would have been so much easier. Maz, do you want to take your experience?
On your laptop and delete those pictures.
No, we're not deleting any of the pictures because it's important. Because obviously, Grant would be the education minister, obviously, and Mark, you're the health minister. With that going on, I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm going to be. Hang on a minute.
Where do you fit in that?
I'm just trying to think. I'm the fashion police, and I'm the fashion police. That would be me. Maz, did you want to say something serious? I'm sorry, we went off track there.
I think I totally agree with Grant. I'm just, it's just inconsistency. 1 meter, 2 meter, school should open, school shouldn't open. I say no more. We've only got a few minutes left, and once I start and have a rant, I need a good 10 minutes.
Carry on. If you want to have a rant, carry on, please.
No rant. No rant. We're in midweek. It's Thursday.
Yeah.
No rant.
Maz, just a quick one. Law has just messaged me and said Maz for PM. So at least you got one person voting for you.
Oh, thank you, Law. Thank you.
Well, it is true because she's an upstanding pillar of the community. I don't know what I was going to say then. Doesn't matter. Is anybody else? No, Maz, you're very important. Don't panic. It's all good. It's all good. I'm just trying to keep this last bit light because obviously we've had such a heavy start of the show. Anybody else got anything else? No. Oh, we're quiet.
I just quickly, you know what I like to talk about. I'm all for me holidays and me leisure.
Oh, sorry.
We had a notification this morning that one of the hotels that we frequent for a little weekend away is opening on the 4th of July.
Wow.
So Abby and I sort of go there typically a couple of times a year just to get a weekend away. 4th of July, they have announced that is music to my ears.
That's good.
Hotels are opening.
Can I just say then, because obviously we had a conversation last night, didn't we, Grant, about this? It'd be great to have that beer. And I had a look, and Maz is important because she's my event host for Birmingham. I had a look. We haven't actually advertised any event for Birmingham. Everyone else has still got the listing going on. So it should be the second Wednesday of the month that we normally have an event. So I'm going to have a chat with, Chungying Central, see if they can host us, because I believe you've got to support those who've supported you. And I think what came up on 12 months ago was when we've done one since, but on Facebook always brings up a history of where we were all in there having a drink and having a meal. And we all know that the guys there do an amazing job looking after us. And I'd like to think if they can get us in July, we will be having a first networking face-to-face event there. So that is a light note.
That is awesome. We love a bit of Chunging.
That would be brilliant.
We do. I'll be there.
Mark,
And they've been doing awesome stuff for the community, haven't they?
They have done amazing.
The last time we did Changying was when I was supposed to host and I didn't turn up.
Yeah, we remember, Maz. We remember.
Yeah.
She made a big song and dance about like the script, about getting it right, about promoting it, and I did all this. And then I was like, right, I was ready. And then she said, "Oh, I've got." Well, sadly, it was not a great occasion for you, but you couldn't make it because of personal reasons, could you? But I just thought, wow, this is typical. I'm still here doing it. But yeah, it's good to see that you're here, Maz, for us, and I know that you'll do an amazing job for all businesses in the Midlands. There you go. This is in the Midlands of Birmingham. We're hosting our first face-to-face networking event in Birmingham.
Wow.
Well, that's
Okay.
great. That's a bit of positive news there, everybody. I'll be there.
Matt,
So,
you and me can have our pictures resumed now, the ones that we always have together at the event.
Those odd ones. And we've been told that if you look really closely in the background, in the middle,
That's not Andy. It's not
Andy.
It's him.
That's not Andy.
That's not Andy.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't wear glasses like that.
No, he doesn't. No, but he said it was him.
No, it's not him. That's because he didn't have his glasses on.
That's probably right. The guy, he's holding the bottle of beer exactly how Andy holds a bottle of beer, which is a bit weird.
It just looks just like him, doesn't it? But I don't think it is him.
No,
Can you bring the other picture up, Matt?
Which one, mate?
The one at the Christmas party where we're all celebrating.
Oh, I don't know. I got that one on my system.
All by one.
I'll have to get that one up tomorrow.
Where Maz is holding a cup of tea.
Oh, there is. I think I may have deleted that one. I don't keep everything on here.
Oh, that's a great one, that is.
I know. I'm just looking. Hang on. Is that one?
I love how I can have my teas and water while you all get drunk.
But the thing is, Maz, you're great at what you do, and you're entertaining regardless. You don't need, obviously, like we do, alcohol to be entertaining.
That is it. That is the end of it because it's rolling into just banter. So thank you much, everybody. Mark in Birmingham, Grant in Solihull, Maz, wherever Maz is, I never know where she lives.
Oh.
Well, actually, I do know where she lives, but not there. Anyway, I will see you all very soon. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock because it's a Friday show, everybody.
Woo!
See ya.
Cycling.